Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to my video series. What's next, friend? I'll talk about how I wound up serving 33 years in the military, and then I also talk about what's going on with me, and that's the what's next part. So I'm looking for, oh, here it is. So I want to talk about my third assignment. I think I've talked about all the assignments thus far. I'm going to talk about my third assignment, and that was coming back from Yokota with a husband and a daughter. And it was Pope Air Force Base. And so, as I do these videos and I talk about my bases, I kind of want to share something else. So I have the most wonderful daughter in the entire world. And for my retirement, she made me these cards. And it's basically her kind of explaining from her perspective what it was like for each of my assignments, right? She's got like all the bases from her memory and from the things that you know that she experienced, right? So this was her Yokota card. So Yokota was my second assignment. So let me see what she says on her Yokota. She said, "Where it all started. I love hearing your memories of this time. My daycare provider teaching me Spanish, which I talked about. First birthday party at McDonald's, all of it. You were working multiple jobs just to make sure we were taken care of. I didn't get it then, but I definitely get it now. Yeah, I talked about all the jobs I had. Aerobics instructor, karaoke DJ, yada, yada. It says, thank you for the sacrifices you made. Thank you for pushing my dad to want more and for believing he didn't have to stay where he was, but he could actually be on the plane." Yes, I don't think I talked about that. But when I met David, he was a engineer and engine troop for the 130. He basically did mechanics engineering. And I asked him, I said, hey, you went to college to be an engineer. Why aren't you flying? They have flight engineers where you can fly the planes. And he's like, oh, why am I not flying? I said, I don't know why you're not flying. You need to apply. And so when we left Dakota, when we met each other, he was an engine troop turning wrenches. And when we left, he was going to school to be air crew to fly as a flight engineer. I bet you remember that. Anyway, so that was Yokota, first assignment. So now, or excuse me, second assignment for me, first assignment for Jasmine. That's where she was born. All right. And so the next one, my third assignment was Pope Air Force Base. Also a big life-changing assignment for me. I'll tell Jasmine's and then I'll kind of give mine. She says, I don't have a ton of memories from here, but the ones I do have are really special to me. Saturday night was hair night. We would watch Malcolm in the Middle, and she would be eating, she had this heart-shaped Powerpuff Girl plate that I would fix her meals on. She had gymnastics at Countryside Studio. Birthday parties were there. Running outside and hanging out with Amari, making cookies for Santa on Christmas. She said, this is where I started loving bedtime, reading Arthur before going to sleep, ballet recitals, Pringles out of the little Pringle container, getting so excited seeing you and Kendall in the stands when she did her dance recital. She says, you were building a career and caring so much, and somehow you always remained present and always showed up. It feels like the beginning of the little routines that made everywhere feel like home. She is special. My baby girl is amazing. Whew. So those were her memories from my third assignment. My memories are, I remember getting there. And we, like I talked about, we lived in this Japanese housing before we moved on base. And we thought, oh, why don't we just do that again? But again, David and I didn't have a whole lot of information, and some of the things that were true overseas were not true in the States. And so we got this really nice, spacious house because we thought, hey, they're going to give us whatever the rent is, not knowing that, oh, if we got a more modest home, we would be able to pocket that money. Not anyway. So we started out in a really nice neighborhood. And when we first got there, David had to go to school because he was, going to school to be a flight engineer. So he had training and all the stuff that he had to do. So he was in school, and it was me and Jasmine there for probably the first 6 months in North Carolina, and we lived in Fayetteville. By the time David came back, here's one of my memories. He had training, so he would come home for a little bit and then go back to training for however long, and then come home for a little bit and go back to training. And so I remember being home. He was home for our first Christmas in North Carolina. And so we were both enlisted. And so we had tight money, but that wasn't going to affect Jasmine's Christmas. So what we did is we did Christmas shopping in October. We could put everything on layaway in October, and we would have a paycheck on the 15th of October, the 1st of November, the 15th of November, and the 1st of December, and the 15th of December. So we basically had 5 paychecks where we could pay on that layaway, so that when by the time Christmas came, Jasmine would be able to have this wonderful Christmas. And so I remember he had came home in between, I think it may have been, was it October? I can't remember the exact timeline, but he had came home, and we were discussing Christmas. The layaway was done. It was probably November or something. Maybe it may have even been for Thanksgiving. And he was like, we're talking about it, and we're explaining kind of all the things we got, what we're going to do. And I was like, I don't want her to have a Santa Claus. He said, what? I said, I don't think she needs to be believing in Santa Claus. Some big fat white man gave her these gifts. We work hard for these gifts. We had to put stuff on layaway. We had to do all of this stuff. I don't want her to believe in no Santa. And he was like, Kim, I get it. I get it. But let the baby have Santa Claus. Like, come on, let the baby have Santa Claus. And I was like, he's like, what's she gonna do with all the other kids have Santa? All the other kids, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, fine, I guess. That was one of our parenting decisions, was he wanted the baby to have Santa Claus, so the baby had Santa Claus. Hence the making cookies for Santa situation. But I was really hesitant about that. I said, I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway, we kind of made that parenting decision there. So yeah, we were there for 4 years. They called it No Hope Pope. We got there in 1998. So Jasmine was 2. And then we were there for 4 years. So we were 6 by the time she was 6 by the time I left. Did I leave before David? I think I did. I did leave before him. I think he was there for a little bit more. But anyway, so I worked and oh my gosh. So I met some of the most important people in my life at this base, who I am still friends with today. I still call friends today. I absolutely love them. I first worked in range scheduling, where I met Lark, and her name was Barksdale. Uh-oh. Nobody's seen these videos. She don't like me talking about. Anyway, I met Lark, and Lark, beautiful, tall, thin. She's Panamanian and black, and she had this, her hair was cut really short, and it was just so beautiful and wavy and curly. And Lark is still stunning, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this girl is gorgeous. And she was my sponsor. And we worked together. I met her, and she and I are still friends today. Yep, she was at my promotion ceremony to '06, and yeah, I just saw her the last time I went to Florida, December. So yeah, met Lark. She was the first person that I met there that's been a huge part of my life. And then probably about 6 months after that, or maybe even a year, 6 months maybe. Yeah, I think it was 6 months. Patrina Madre, joined our team, and it was me, Patrina, and Lark. We were like, it was the 3 of us. We were all married, I was the only one with a kid, so I was like extra locked down, and, the mama of the group. But I love them to death. I met them there, and what's interesting, that all 3 of us met each other married, and all 3 of us went through a divorce at the same time. So, who was first? I think Lark was first, with her divorce. And then I was second, and Katrina was third. But Katrina has since remarried and has got a loving, beautiful relationship. Black love, black love. Lark remarried as well. She remarried to someone she called Jasmine's boyfriend's daddy, who his son was a close friend of Jasmine and used to be on crew with David. And so it was like this interesting, weird situation that we had where she wound up um, dating and marrying him. But they've since divorced. And so we kind of bonded over all of us getting divorced at the same time. You know, we were all like going through the same things, you know, trying to figure it out. But we also started going to school because I was going to school in Japan, and I think I might have talked about that while I was pregnant. I was going through school, but then when I got to Pope, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I think I want to get out of the military and go to school full time and teach history. My dream was to change and overhaul the history curriculum for primary and elementary education so that history would be inclusive, so that you wouldn't have like these special months or this special time where you learned about Black people, where you could, when you're learning American history, you're learning about what Black people were doing throughout the entirety of this nation because we were here and we were doing things. So that was my goal. Because I had tried to make rank. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you. So when I was in Japan, I tested for staff sergeant, I think twice maybe. And in order to increase in rank, I think it was like I was a senior airman, so I was an E4 and I was trying to make E5. And so I would study for the test. And I studied, I think I tested twice while I was there. I did not make it. I got to Pope and I was like, I don't care about this. I think I just want to go to school. I want to get my degree and then I want to go teach. I want to get out. I want to just, they had a higher tenure thing where it's like, if you don't get promoted, if you are still an E4 after 10 years of service, then you get out at something called higher tenure. So that's what I was gunning for. I was like, I've tried to make this test. I've tried to do this thing. It's not working for me. I think I need to be in the education space anyway. So I'm just going to focus on that. And so I actually made staff sergeant at like 8 years, and it was a fluke because I didn't study. I didn't do anything. I was just like, whatever, I'm taking this test because I had to take this test, but I'm really focused on my school. So I really started going to school a lot at Pope. And so, so much so, when I made staff, it was a surprise. And then after I made staff sergeant, I went on something called bootstrap program, where you can not get out of school, where you're essentially on permissive TDY for the duration of your school time to finish your degree. And so I had like, when did I do? I did bootstrap, I think, for like 6 months, where all I had to do was go to school. I was using TA, and it was just for me to finish my degree. And during that time, 9/11 happened. And my entire perspective changed. Like, I was in school on the bootstrap program, and all my friends were still at work. And when 9/11 happened, I was like, everybody brought their kids to my house because I didn't have to go into the office. Like, they didn't recall me, they didn't pull me off the program. I was able to continue. And so I was like not going into the office every day. I was going to school. And 9/11 changed my trajectory because it brought out a sense of patriotism that I hadn't really felt before. In a sense that, again, this is me at that time. And it just really made me want to serve, because I felt like the world that I knew, or the country that I lived in, was forever changed, and my daughter would never ever be able to experience living in this nation in a way that did not have the threat of violent terrorism. I fully understand domestic terrorism and racism, how that is terrorism as well. Um, and the how you can protect as much as you can, but not from that. It's kind of like the devil you know. We understand racism and the terrorism attacks of white supremacy. We understand that. We can combat that. We did not understand this type of terrorism. And so for me, it was like it just woke something up in me where I wanted to serve more. And so I was like, you know what? I'm getting my degree. I'm going to go ahead and apply for OTS, because I want to I want to serve in a different capacity, in a larger capacity. B, I want to provide for my daughter in a way that the fact that I, I'm a single parent, it won't hurt her in a way that is tied to finance. Because it is hard. It is hard to be a single parent and to be active duty. And I will say that a large driver for going to OTS was, yes, the patriotism, but largely the paycheck, because I knew I would be able to provide a life for her that was better than the life that I had. I did grow up with a single parent who was enlisted, so I understood what that like. I know that my mom provided for me the very best that she could, and I did not suffer. I wanted my daughter to never have the experience of lack that I did. So, at Pope, I applied for OTS. And I was selected for OTS. I got an assignment to become an officer. OTS is Officer Training School. That's how you go from being enlisted to becoming an officer. I don't know why I'm explaining this. If you're watching this, then you know what it means. And so at that point, they told us, like, hey, if you want to apply for OTS, they need people in space and missiles. They need people in space and missiles. 13 Sierra, put that AFSC, put that Air Force Specialty Code on your application and you will be selected. I was like, I don't even know what that is. What? Space and missiles? They were like, yeah, don't nobody want to do it. If you put it on there, they'll select you. I was like, oh, okay. So it was my third choice. We had to put 3 choices. This was my third choice. I got selected, and I got selected for that. And I remember I got selected for OTS before I even graduated from college, from getting getting my bachelor's degree. I was volunteering at the squadron. We had like this gift wrapping thing where we would do to collect money for the Booster Club, and so I was still active in the squadron, even though I wasn't like coming to work every day because I was going to school. But anyway, so I was at the BX like wrapping gifts or whatever as a part of the squadron Booster Club, and my squadron commander comes in and he hands me this ring box. I'm telling the story of how I found out about getting selected for OTS. So I'm wrapping presents. I'm like, hey, sir, how's it going? He's like, how's the OTS application? I said, I don't know, sir. I'm hoping I'll find out, in a few weeks, whatever. And he's like, all right, can you wrap this for me? And he gives me this little ring box. And I'm like, okay. He said, could you open it for me first? And I was like, sure. I said, did you get something nice for your wife? And inside was a gold bar. And he said, congratulations, Airman Bar, you have been selected for OTS. And I was like, so excited, so happy, so proud, could not believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, my graduation isn't for blah, 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 blah. I think I graduated, did I graduate in the same month? Yeah, my graduation was the end of December, and I got notified that I got selected early part of December. And so, yeah, that's a lot of things changed for me at Pope. Life-changing things. Divorce, officer training school, friends like Lark and Patrina, and 9/11. Yeah. So that's the story of Pope Air Force Base. I was there from 1998 until 2002. And that's when I went to Vandenberg, California. And got some more like stuff. But anyway, so that is the story of Pope Air Force Base, complete with the lovely, beautiful note that I got from Jasmine. My baby is amazing. But I will continue these. Next up will be either my fourth assignment, which was Beale. No, fourth assignment was Vandenberg. Was Jasmine at Vandenberg? I don't think she was there. Got Dakota, we got Pope, and we got Vandenberg. I was at Vandenberg twice, so anyway. Next up is Vandenberg, but I probably will do a what's next video before that because I will be going to Chicago at the end of the week. Chicago! And I can tell you what's been going on. But anyway, so I'm not going to keep these videos long. This one's like 21 minutes, which is a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching. What's next, friends?